G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Sunday, it's the long weekend, it's NRL Grand Final day, and I thought I'd just go on a walk just to chill out and to make the most of the next couple of hours. Walking along these beautiful tracks here and going through a couple of book summaries along the way. As you can see, there's quite a few people on the track, so it's well used, well utilised, which is great to see. G'day, mate. So the book that I've chosen to do today is a book entitled Set Boundaries to Find Peace. It's a timely sort of book. We always need to be reminded about the importance of managing our environment, our social environment, so that we try and get as much peace as possible, so we live a fulfilled life, but one which is not dominated by stress. So the book here is written by a female author, Nedra Glover Tawwab. Nedra. And she kicks off the book with a beautiful quote that we can contemplate and think about, because it is quite profound. And she says that we don't naturally fall into perfect relationships, but we create them. So relationships, whilst people tend to be social and enjoy socialising, perfect relationships just don't come about by chance. The author here says that we basically need to shape the relationships that we have around us and in our lives and create the best interactions that we can through purposeful management of our engagements. The author also talks about the fact that lots of people... Actually, I haven't got my mask. I think I'll need to go back and pick up my mask. Let me just double back and pick up my mask. That's one thing I forgot. But we'll continue the vlog as we're going. Just need to go back to where the car is, double back. So the author here reminds us that people find themselves in uncomfortable situations all the time. Just like now, I'm in a bit of an uncomfortable situation, knowing that masks in the LGA that I live in is mandated. Even though I'm doubly vaccinated and I'm exercising, I just felt a little bit uncomfortable walking through the bush with others crossing my path and looking at me as if I'm letting the team down. So I'll go back, grab the mask and do the right thing. So the author here reminds us that people in general tend to find themselves in uncomfortable situations all the time during their day-to-day interactions with other people. But whichever the case, each of us should address both the minor and major inconveniences so that our relationships with people stay healthy. And in order for something to stay healthy, we need to do what's right for us. We need to do what's right for people around us, but we also need to communicate clearly with each and every one so that everybody knows what our boundaries are and what our likes and our dislikes are, and it's up to them to respect it. And if they don't respect it, then it's up to us then to make a decision whether or not we continue the relationship or we sever the relationship with people who don't respect our needs. So, contrary to popular belief, setting boundaries doesn't create distance between parties. It in fact brings them closer together, because what we're doing is we're shaping the relationship through communication, through respect and understanding. And setting limits shouldn't make us feel cold or distant. So it's something that we need to work on and learn how to work best on. I'll just go up to the car and grab the mask. So the first formal point to come out of this book from this author is that effective communication and reciprocation are the keys to setting healthy limits. Because not only do we do the right thing by other people, we also expect other people to do the right thing by us. So our sensitivities are managed, and we also make sure that we fit in with other people's needs as well. So as we said before, as we alluded to before, communication is the key for healthy relationships. So it really isn't another person's fault if they do things or say things that make us feel uncomfortable, if we haven't said anything or done anything about it to alert them to the fact that what they're doing is creating discomfort, disappointment and pain. So the author here says that it's essential to be open about our peculiarities, because we're all different. But the author here is saying that we need to be open about our individual peculiarities with everyone around us. Because if we're not, what it does is it fosters a passive-aggressive sort of stance on our behalf as our frustrations build up with those around us. So it's important to note that if you don't communicate your needs to other people, what you're basically doing is that you're creating an environment that's going to work against you. So I've got my mask now, so I'm free to go and engage on my walk and continue my talk. Just so you know where I'm going and where I'm starting from, I'm doing this loop today, the Pummel Way loop, which starts here at Allambie Avenue, corner of Allambie Avenue and Moxon's Road in Winston Hills. And I'll take it all the way to the end, but I'll also join some other tracks which will ensure that I'm walking and potentially talking for 2 or 3 hours at least this afternoon. So I was really interested to hear this from this author, saying that if you don't do anything about your discomfort, what you're basically doing is you're fueling passive-aggressive behaviour where you're annoyed, you're intolerant of things that are happening around you, and whilst you're not directly offended and opposed to what's happening, you'll give signs to other people that you're unhappy with them, which may impact your relationship and cause further problems down the track. So don't stay quiet is the key call to action from this author. Don't stay quiet about things that bother you. If something gives you the shits, so to speak, then you've got to call it out. But having been married for 36 years, I've also learned that we need to pick our battles as well. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves, is it really worth having a fight about? Is it really bothering me? Because, as I said, sometimes certain battles, certain irritations are not worth following through on. But the author here reminds us and makes a really good point here that forgiveness and mutual understanding will build healthy relationships. So forgiveness, we need to forgive others and seek others' forgiveness for the things that we've done to annoy them. My spiritual father always reminds me, and he says that there are no perfect couples, and that each husband and each wife, each pair on a daily basis let each other down in ways that you don't even know that you're letting the other person down, and that in order to have a long, healthy and successful wedding or marriage, what you need to do on a daily basis, he said, not once a year or on your anniversary or whatever. He said every single day you need to be seeking and offering forgiveness to your partner for the things that you've done or the things that you don't know that you've done. And only through that sort of mentality, that sort of attitude, will you be in a position to stay married and grow in your marriage or your relationship over the many years. But as the author also reminds us, there's a fine line. There's a fine line between forgiveness and foolishness. And it's up to each person to identify the difference between forgiving somebody and just being foolish and being a doormat to continually cop the flack and the disrespect from certain members of families and of communities. So you either decide to mend or cut away is the key message from this author. The second formal point to come out of this wonderful book is that we need to be firm about our limits by imposing consequences on those who overstep the bounds. There's no use in setting limits which don't have consequences or don't have outcomes for people to consider. Because some people may, you may set a limit and they may, listen to the consequence, and they either consider the consequence and improve their behaviour, or they just disregard the consequence and the warning that you've given them and continue doing what they've done or what they do to annoy you, even though that you've clearly communicated to them that what they're doing is not working for you. So the important thing is to nip things in the bud. So to communicate your limits and to ensure that there is an immediate change of behaviour and change of habit. And if there's not, then you need to once again decide what you want to do. And it's a decision point. Do you continue the relationship, or do you sever the relationship based on the lack of mutual respect? So it's important to understand that good things take time, and some people need a couple of chances to get things right, and it's only when they are really threatened that some people pull up their socks and toe the line, so to speak, and decide that the relationship is more important than their own selfish desires and childish behaviours. So we've also got to remember and understand that you're not obliged to stay in a toxic environment. You're not obliged to be with family and friends who are toxic and bad for your mental, physical and emotional makeup. At the end of the day, we all understand this. At the end of the day, each and every one of us have a responsibility and accountability to manage our own our own lives. And as my wife always says, it's important and critical that each person puts a moat around their sanity. Each person needs to protect their own sanity because only they know what hurts them, what disturbs them, and what causes issues. You can't expect somebody else to be second guessing or be a mind reader to understand what's bothering you. You need to be able to clearly communicate it. You need to state it in a way that the other person understands, but you need to be serious so that they take you seriously as well. I love this part of the track with this massive, massive tree that has fallen across the creek. And because it's been raining lately, there's just a bit of a run on the creek as well. It's cleared up some of the rubbish. But listen to those bellbirds. Can you hear those bellbirds? Normally I had to drive all the way up along the Bells line of road to get to Bilpin to listen to their beautiful pings. But I can come down to this little bushland here, which is a few kilometres from my home. I can actually walk here and I can bathe and indulge in their beautiful sounds. So, as we said, there's no obligation to stay in a toxic environment, and we need to take care of ourselves. So the last point to come out of this book from this author is that we need to learn more about ourselves, what makes us tick, what makes us function, what makes us happy, and what makes us sad. Because unless you know what makes you tick, then you're not able to manage the environment around you to minimise the impacts that send you into a negative spiral. And the author here once again reminds us and tells us, I'll just go down this little track here as well, reminds us and tells us that it's up to us, it's up to each and every one of us to do what we need to do, because, as the author says, poor boundaries allow you to absorb other people's emotions. Poor boundaries, or no boundaries, allows others to infect your emotions with their emotions. And over the years, we all learn, sooner or later we all learn, that if we're not careful, other people's problems end up becoming our problems. And that's what you don't want to do. You just want to make sure that the problems that you have in your life are your problems, not other people's problems, unless of course they're your children, they're your partner, where you're part of the same family and you can help them solve their challenges. So the last point that the author makes is that with our boundaries, there's a fine line with setting boundaries. And the author here is saying that if you're too rigid in the boundaries that you set, if you're far too rigid, then what will happen is that you'll push lots and lots of people away because you're too difficult to deal with. You're cold and distant, or that's what you'll make them feel that you're like. Whereas if you don't have the boundaries, you'll have a lot more problems to deal with in your life. So there's a dance. There's a dance of to and fro, where you give and take in order to get to where you need to be and to be social enough to enjoy your life, but at the same token, that you're not a doormat, that you hate your life. So there you go. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, coming to you from the bush track here at in Winston Hills. We've got a little lizard down there, a little skink. I remember when I was a kid, I used to love trying to catch them, but they were so elusive. They were so elusive and so difficult to come close to. So this is probably the closest I've been to one for a long time. So the author of this book, Nedra Glover Tawwab, and the title of this book, Set Boundaries and Find Peace, is a wonderful way of learning just the simple messages in life that we need to work in a productive way to understand what makes us happy or sad, and then to make sure that we communicate in a clear and empathetic way to others around us when we need time out, when we need some peace and quiet, or when we want to be engaging and funny and probably causing them issues with our overuse of energy. But anyway, thank you once again. I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment, where we can become partners in each other's growth and development, because the most important thing that we have to do is to grow and develop, stretch ourselves, lean just outside our comfort zones, and be the best version we can of who we are. So thanks once again, and I look forward to catching up with you on another episode of Jim's 5am Club, and we'll chat again. Yassas, and bye for now on this Sunday. And just for the record, my tip for tonight's NRL Grand Final is the Penrith Panthers. Take care, and bye for now.